Principle number 8 is play with music as much as you can, even while you're practicing. What we want to do with any new ways of expression is we want to put them into a context right away. In music, that means putting your new technical ideas into a musical context while you're practicing as much as possible. This helps us in many ways. It helps us with our main motives, which is express oneself. So if we're focusing on a technique while we're practicing a technique, maybe we're developing the technique, but we're not going to be developing our ability to be expressive with that technique. So if we practice in the groove with other musicians, or with a recording, or with a drum machine, or something like that, then it will help us with more than one thing at once. It will help us with our connection with the music and not just with the technique. So here's an example of how we might do this. I love to practice with a drum machine because that really makes me focus on the rhythm and the groove, even if I'm practicing my scales, for example. So here's a little funk beat by my YouTube drum jam buddy, Jim Dooley. And of course, Jim has excellent rhythm, and he lays down a very solid groove. And instead of practicing my scales by myself or just with a metronome, I fit into the groove. So that's just a very simple example, but it's much more fun to play with a little bit of music in the background that you can be playing along with. Another thing I really enjoy doing is playing along with recordings of my favorite songs and my favorite artists. It's very enjoyable to play music with those greats, and also playing with professionals, whether they're there or just on recording, will rapidly speed our development versus playing with other amateurs. So we want to jam with professionals if it's possible. That's how we learn our languages. Most of the people we learn our language from when we're babies are already complete fluent speakers. So I recently learned how to play the acoustic bass, and while it took me years and years and years to learn how to play a trumpet, I also learned how to speak music. And then since I already spoke music, I was able to learn how to play the bass very easily. And I didn't practice at all. All I did was put on my favorite recordings, and I played along with them. And magically, 3 months later, I had my first bass gig. So if you want to learn songs, if you want to become a musician quickly, always be playing with other musicians, whether they're there in the room with you or not.